Back in 1965, Pakistan decided to roll the dice. They launched a secret military operation, codenamed Operation Gibraltar, with one massive goal: to seize Kashmir from India. Now, this was supposed to be a quick, clean, high-stakes gamble, but what actually happened was anything but. We're going to unpack exactly how this super covert plan just blew up in their faces, triggering a full-scale war that would completely change the face of South Asia. So, what was the plan? Well, it was pretty daring, but on paper, kinda simple. Under the cover of darkness, thousands of Pakistani soldiers were going to ditch their uniforms, dress up like local Kashmiris, and just slip across the border. Their mission? Just blend in, start a popular rebellion, and cause so much chaos that India would completely lose its grip on the region. All of this, hopefully, without officially kicking off a war. So, the big question is what went so wrong? How did a plan that was put together with so much detail just completely fall apart, dragging two whole nations into a war that would end up seeing some of the biggest tank battles since World War II? Let's get into it. Okay, to really get why Pakistan would risk so much on a plan like this, you have to transport yourself back to 1965. Because from where they were sitting in Islamabad, the timing for this bold move looked absolutely perfect. The whole calculation was really based on this stark contrast. On one hand, you had India, which looked pretty weak. It was still licking its wounds from a really tough defeat against China in '62. It had a brand new, untested prime minister, Lal Bahadur Shastri, and the economy was in trouble. But on the other hand, you had Pakistan, which was really at the peak of its military power, armed with all this advanced American gear like Patton tanks and Sabre jets. Their president, Ayub Khan, and his government were totally convinced they were superior. It was this confidence, that was almost arrogance, and it led them to completely misread India's will to fight back. So, riding this wave of confidence, Pakistan's leadership, especially their foreign minister, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, basically said, let's do this. The infiltration plan was officially a go. And the name, Operation Gibraltar? Well, that wasn't random. It was a direct callback to the 8th century Muslim conquest of Spain, which was launched from the Rock of Gibraltar. The thinking was the same. A small, determined force would be the tip of the spear for a much bigger takeover. The goal, as one Pakistani general famously put it, was to defreeze the Kashmir problem. And let me tell you, this was a massive operation. We're talking thousands of soldiers, all organized into these separate commando units, and each one was named after a legendary Muslim conqueror. Each force was given a specific zone to operate in all across Kashmir, from the central Srinagar Valley all the way to the strategic heights of Kargil. The idea was to cause chaos everywhere all at once. The sheer ambition of this plan was just staggering. It wasn't just about sending in some guys to stir up trouble. No, this was a 4-phase strategy for a total takeover. It actually started with a little trial run, a skirmish in the Rann of Kutch, just to see how India would react. Phase 2 was Gibraltar itself, and that was supposed to trigger Phase 3, Operation Grand Slam, a huge military assault to capture the really important Aknor Bridge. And the grand finale? A massive armored attack to capture the major Indian city of Amritsar. But here's the thing. The entire, complicated, multi-phase plan was built on one critical assumption. And that assumption turned out to be completely, fatally wrong. This is where it all starts to fall apart. The whole operation, every single part of it, hinged on this one idea, that the people of Kashmir would welcome them with open arms as liberators and rise up against India. They could not have been more wrong. Instead of a rebellion, the infiltrators were met with suspicion. They were outsiders, they talked differently. And very quickly, local villagers started reporting them to the Indian army. And think about the scale here. We're talking about an infiltration force of possibly up to 30,000 men. You just can't hide an operation that big if the local population isn't helping you. Reports from villagers, like a shepherd named Muhammad Din who became quite famous, quickly tipped off the Indian army. And just like that, the army launched operations to hunt them down. The element of surprise? Gone. And the popular rebellion they were counting on? It just never happened. So, with Operation Gibraltar exposed and failing pretty spectacularly, Pakistan was forced to hit the accelerator on its bigger plans. And this is what pushed both countries over the edge, from a secret conflict into open, all-out war. And the situation just escalated with terrifying speed. Within days of the infiltration being found out, Indian forces hit back hard, capturing the vital Hajipir Pass and cutting off a key supply route for the infiltrators. So Pakistan, with its secret plan in total tatters, had to play its next card. On September 1st, they launched Operation Grand Slam, that full-scale armored assault we talked about. The secret war was over. The real war had just begun. This is the moment where everything changes. Prime Minister Shastri, the same man Pakistan had dismissed as weak, made it crystal clear that India was not going to keep this fight contained to just Kashmir. This powerful statement was a signal that India's entire strategy was about to change, dramatically. And then, on September 6th, India did something Pakistan had never, ever expected. Indian troops crossed the international border and started advancing towards Lahore. It was a bold, game-changing move. It forced Pakistan to pull its forces away from Kashmir to defend its own heartland, completely flipping the script of the war, and leading to these huge, epic tank battles around Sialkot. After 17 days of incredibly intense fighting, international pressure finally brought about a ceasefire. But as you'll see, the end of the shooting was really just the beginning of a very complex and pretty controversial diplomatic endgame. When the ceasefire was finally called on September 22nd, the situation on the ground told a very clear story. Indian forces had captured nearly 4 times as much territory as Pakistan had, and that included the strategically crucial Hajipir Pass. Basically, India was walking to the negotiating table holding all the cards. So, the formal peace talks happened in Tashkent, which was then in the Soviet Union. And in January 1966, Prime Minister Shastri and President Ayub Khan signed the Tashkent Declaration, officially bringing the war to an end. Now, the core of this agreement was a return to what they call the status quo ante bellum, which is just a fancy way of saying, go back to where you were before the war started. This meant Pakistan had to pull out of the areas it had captured in Chumb, and most importantly, India agreed to give back all the territory it had won, including the Hajipir Pass. And this leaves us with a big, enduring question of the 1965 war. Militarily, India clearly won the battle. They decisively shut down Pakistan's ambitious plan. But then, at the negotiating table, they gave back the Hajipir Pass, a strategic gateway that would be used by infiltrators to cross into Kashmir for decades to come. So did India win the war, only to lose the peace? Well, that is a question that historians are still debating to this day.